Hi guys, my name is Songes Ozibi. Welcome to another episode of Songs and Friends. As many of you know, I recently teamed up with the Solidarity Fund in order to help to get as many South Africans as possible vaccinated against COVID-19. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because personally, I've had enough of the suffering that I see with colleagues, with families, with friends, with neighbors who are losing parents, who are losing children, who are losing cousins. Tragedy all over. Secondly, so many people are no longer able to look after themselves because they've lost their income. And with loss of income comes loss of dignity for many people. We cannot allow this situation to continue. Now, one of my fears is that we're going to have a fourth wave, and the fourth wave will lead to another lockdown and further tragedy and further loss of income and loss of means to put food on the table. I believe that we have to work together in order to make sure that South Africans are healthy, they're protected against COVID-19, and they're able to look after themselves and heal and recover. Now, COVID-19, having killed millions of people, remains the subject of endless misinformation and disinformation. Now, being misinformed is not good in that you are likely to make a really bad decision. But disinformation is more dangerous because it is intentional. Someone or a group of people, for political, religious, or other reasons, concoct lies and conspiracy theories in order to mislead society. Disinformation is intended to confuse, to cause mistrust of sources of information that are usually credible and trustworthy. Now, these drivers of misinformation will often encourage people to not believe what they see in the news media, but only when it relates to the subject they are concerned with. Otherwise, it's fine. Let me make an example. The same people who say that the public should not trust the news media at all are otherwise happy to consume what they read about in the sports pages, even when it is highly speculative, such as when player A is going to move to club B, or whether they want to move at all. Are they unhappy with the coach and so on, and they report on unnamed sources. Those same people who say don't trust the media will read those stories, they will tweet them, they will share with their friends on WhatsApp and so on, and they will form the part of dinner table conversation or conversations that we have over drinks or in social gatherings. Those same people will also say, when the news media reports something that a recognized expert such as Dr. Anthony Fauci says, will say they are being reported uncritically, there's a conspiracy going on in order to mislead everybody, etc., etc. So in other words, what they're saying is that a highly speculative sports article is okay, but reporting on a press conference by a world-renowned expert is not. This is absurd. Secondly, they like shifting the goalposts. For instance, during the research phase for the COVID-19 vaccines, there was some talk about how Africans should never take part in the vaccine trials at all because the intention is to kill them or make them infertile. Amazingly, when the vaccines were approved, these countries that were working on the vaccine prioritized their own people. In other words, it appears that the agenda shifted from wanting to kill Africans to looking after their own people. As time went on and people continued to get very sick or die, it became clear that we cannot carry on like this. A vaccine is a must. And then there is a new complaint, which I believe is valid, and that complaint is vaccine apartheid. This is the fact that African and other low-income countries do not have access to life-saving vaccines, which is very unfair and inhumane in my opinion. I don't think human suffering should continue because there are people who are considered less deserving of life-saving medication. So if we follow to its logical conclusion the argument that says vaccines were meant to kill Africans, then we have to explain why we are being put at the back of the queue of people who must get the vaccine. The two allegations cannot live next to each other. Then there is my favorite, which is that we should not inject our bodies with chemicals that these conspiracy theories says are poisonous. But the same people are quite happy to take any other drug or medication, including animal medication, when they get sick from COVID-19, to be sure All medicines are chemical formulations. So either someone takes medication or they don't take it at all. You can't claim to be avoiding injecting your body with chemicals, but you proceed to take animal medicine while avoiding medication specifically designed for humans. Another favorite of mine is a claim that people should not take COVID-19 vaccines because they are, in inverted commas, experimental. But this is at the same time, those people advocate the consumption of horse deworming medication, a dangerous experiment. The manufacturer of that drug has begged people not to use it to treat COVID-19, saying they have zero evidence that it treats COVID-19. In a way, this reminds me of the people who used to argue with doctors in the 90s about whether HIV causes AIDS. Whenever I asked them who they would approach for advice if they became HIV positive, their favorite politician or a doctor, they would have no answers for me or say I'm being unfair. The latest is to tell people to wait for at least 2 years because these vaccines have not been tested long enough. Now, let's test that hypothesis. Imagine that there was a cure found for cancer or AIDS, and the pharmaceutical company that made the discovery announced it and then said that it will wait another 10 years just to see if the people who have already been cured don't die from side effects later. What are the chances that people would complain and become unhappy about it when their family members, when their loved ones are getting sick, terribly sick, and then die while waiting for evidence that may never come? I don't know why there are people who stage fake expert television interviews so that they can sound credible while asking people to subscribe to what remains a death cult. Conspiracy theories are always full of contradictions, and when you ask further questions, the story keeps shifting. It even gets completely ridiculous. In the US, for instance, some anti-COVID vaccine arguments say that vaccines are a trick to make pharmaceutical companies rich. It even gets more ridiculous. In the US, for instance, some anti-COVID-19 vaccine advocates argue that these vaccines are necessary, they're just here to make pharmaceutical companies rich. Now explain to me why those same people advocate the use of monoclonal antibody treatment, which is $1,200 per dose. That also goes to pharmaceutical companies, by the way. So why is it that a vaccine that costs a couple of dollars is going to make pharmaceutical companies richer than a treatment that costs $1,200 a pop? One thing I know is that the arguments against vaccines often keep shifting. The purpose is to keep you wondering, unsure, lacking confidence, and fearful so that you never get vaccinated. If you trust the medicine your doctor prescribes to you and your family, and you don't even read the ingredients or the contraindications that are in the piece of paper that is inside the box, then you need to ask why the people who are asking you not to trust COVID-19 vaccines are not asking you to do the same thing with Panado tablets and Panado syrup that is given to children. They all medication. They all approved by the same health authorities. They all come from pharmaceutical companies. Surely, we have to be vigilant with every piece of medication. But that's not what these guys are telling us. Now, as I said in the beginning, I've partnered with the Solidarity Fund to help sound the call for everybody who's listening here who has not been vaccinated to get vaccinated today. Once you vaccinate, all these arguments don't matter. But if you don't get vaccinated, the possibility exists that you may get seriously ill or even die. For me, it is sad that some people died because of conspiracy theories and disinformation, and no one is held accountable thereafter. But that is where we are, and I think this needs to stop. So one of the things that we can do is to apply some consistency, to say if we trust all the drugs that we get at the chemist when we're not feeling well, and the same authorities are advising us after very rigorous processes to get vaccinated, I think we should, because it doesn't only protect our health, it protects the health and the well-being of our families and of the community and of our country and society. So let's go and get vaccinated, folks. My name is Songezo Zibi, and this is another episode of Songs and Friends.